you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, conference. Thank you, conference.
True democracy is citizen-led. Politics needs an update. We demand a People's House. We demand a People's House. We are in crisis. We are in crisis. Our whole future is in jeopardy.
It's of Sir Keir Starmer arriving on stage there. A protest being taken away by stewards fairly rapidly. Dragged, indeed, by the arm and the collar there. And we will wait to hear what Sir Keir responds in terms of that interruption. And clearly questions about the security in Liverpool as he brushes off his sleeve there. Don't quite know what's been put over it, whether it's water or some other kind of liquid, or is it glitter? He's going to remove the jacket anyway and carry on shirt sleeves, which, well, yes, is perhaps Tony Blair's style, we remember, all those years ago. Rolling up his sleeves for the job now.
Definitely looking a little bit more relaxed without his jacket. And whoever was on stage, that is tough now to deliver a speech after what has just happened. But let's see how he does.
Thank you. Thank you, conference. Thank you. Thank you, conference. If he thinks that bothers me, he doesn't know me. Protest or power, that's why we changed our party, conference. That's why we changed our party. Thank you, Marie, for those words. My mum would have loved to have been here and to have heard you saying those words. Thank you so much for doing me that honour. And thank you, conference. Thank you for that reception. It is fantastic to be here with you in Liverpool again. And now, before I get going, I know what you're thinking. Please, 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 no more Arsenal jokes. And I think you're right. But, conference, I do want to offer my sympathies to Manchester. No, not for that reason, but because I really do feel for any city that had to host that circus last week. Honestly. What can you say about a Prime Minister who goes to Manchester to cancel Manchester's train line? The self-declared champion of motorists who had to borrow a car for a photo op. A man who keeps a very close watch on the cost of living crisis from the vantage point of a short-haul helicopter. Conference, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm beginning to see why Liz Truss won. Although I still think we'd have been better off without lettuce, actually. But it's been 13 years now. And what does Britain have to show for it? Where is their minimum wage? Where is their Sure Start? Crime down by a third. More students than ever. Devolution, the shortest NHS waiting list in history, 500,000 out of child poverty, peace in Northern Ireland. I'm not going to do the whole list. I haven't got time. But isn't the contrast stark? 13 years of things can only get better versus 13 years of things have only got worse. This is what we have to fight. The Tory project to kick the hope out of this country, drain the reservoirs of our belief. That's why I started with our achievement. I wanted to remind everyone that there was a time, and it wasn't that long ago, when questions such as, is Britain destined for decline, would have felt ridiculous even to ask. And I have to warn you, our way back from this will be hard. But know this, what is broken can be repaired. What is ruined can be rebuilt. Wounds do heal. And ultimately, that project, their project, will crash against the spirit of working people in this country, and they are the source of my hope. Today, we turn the page, answer the question, why Labour? With a plan for a Britain built to last, with higher growth, safer streets, cheap British power in your home, more opportunity in your community, the NHS off its knees, a Britain with its future back. It will require an entirely new approach to politics, mission government, new priorities, totally focused on the interests of working people. 5 national missions, all fixed on a single-minded purpose, to govern for the long term, end the Tory disease of sticking plaster politics with a simple Labour philosophy that together we fix tomorrow's challenges today. And conference, this new path can only be walked by a new party, a changed Labour Party, no longer enthralled to gesture politics, no longer a party of protest, a party of service. Rebuilt, renewed, reconnected to an old partnership, a bargain, that we serve working people as they drive our country forward. And that's why we had to change so fast, why we had to fight so hard to change this party. The bond of respect that comes from service is special. National renewal depends on it. That's why we stood with NATO, a historic achievement of this party, held out our hand to business, ripped anti-Semitism out by the roots, backed Ukraine, country first, party second. Conference, I am shocked and appalled by the events in Israel. I utterly condemn the senseless murder of men, women and children, including British citizens, in cold blood by the terrorists of Hamas. This party believes in the two-state solution, a Palestinian state alongside a safe and secure Israel. But this action by Hamas does nothing for Palestinians, and Israel must always have the right to defend her people. Answer to the outrage that is 7.5 million people waiting for treatment on our NHS. People like Hamza Semakula. He's a semi-pro footballer who plays for Hendon in the Southern League. Last year, he tore his knee ligament very badly, and that left him with a choice of paying £15,000 to go private or abandoning his career, his love, his joy. Now, Hamza actually crowdfunded his operation in the end. The British people dug deep and got him back on the pitch. And he's back in the goals as well. He scored in the FA Cup this season. But honestly, how has it come to this? Working people paying for their own healthcare in a cost of living crisis. Pensioners waiting weeks, months, sometimes waiting years, just for the care that they need. No, the whole point of our NHS is to be the crowd-funded solution for all of us. That's the fundamental principle. And at the next election, it's on the line. The Conservative Party that brought our NHS to its knees will put it in the ground. We have got to get it back on its feet. Thank you, Conference. Thank you, Conference. Thank you. The non-dom tax state is a legal loophole that allows some of the richest people in the world to avoid paying tax in Britain. That's money we could invest in our NHS. That's always been our priority. And right now, the biggest challenge is cutting waiting lists. So we will invest that money in boosting capacity. We will get the NHS working round the clock, and we will pay staff properly to do it. More operations, more appointments, more diagnostic tests. You will be seen more clearly in an NHS clearing the backlog 7 days a week. But Conference, do not doubt the hard road either. Because if all we do is place the NHS on a pedestal, then I'm afraid it will remain on life support. I know some people don't like the word reform, but I tell you now, there's no other option. We must be the government that finally transforms our NHS. There is one barrier so big, so imposing, that it blocks out all light from the other side. A blockage that stops this country building roads, grid connections, laboratories, train lines, warehouses, wind farms, power stations. An obstacle to the aspirations of millions, now and in the future, who deserve the security of home ownership. A future hidden by our restrictive planning system. And Conference, we must bulldoze through it. We used to call it the dream of home ownership, didn't we? We used to say it glibly on stages like this. But look at Britain now. It has become a dream. It's out of reach for millions. And if we don't take action, it will only become more distant. A luxury for the few, not the privilege of the many. And look, I'm trying really hard not to mention the house I grew up in again. But seriously, that Pebble Dash semi was everything to my family. It gave us stability through the cost of living crisis in the 70s. It served as the springboard for the journey I've been on in my life. And I believe every family deserves the same. To have made that aspiration harder for working people, that's been a disaster for our economy and for the unity of this country. So today we launch a new plan to get Britain building again, a signal of our determination to fight the blockers who hold a veto over British aspiration. No more land bankers sitting comfortably on brownfield sites while rents in their communities rise. No more councils refusing to develop a local plan because they prefer the backdoor deal. No more inertia in the face of resistance, and there will be resistance from people who say, no, we don't want Britain's future here. My message to them is this: a future must be built. That is the responsibility of serious government. And if we continually wash our hands of this task, we all end up in a rut, just like now. So it's time to get Britain building again. It's time to build 1.5 million new homes across the country. Opportunities for first-time buyers in every community. New development corporations with the power to remove the blockages. New infrastructure to support families and communities to grow. Roads, tunnels, power stations built quicker and cheaper. And a new effort to rewire Britain. The national grid moving faster, a lot faster. Laying the cables our future prosperity needs. It's a future with more beautiful cities, more prosperous towns, new parks, green spaces, new public services, all aligned with our plan. And conference, sometimes the old Labour ideas are right for new times. So where there are good jobs, where there is good infrastructure, where there's good land for affordable homes, we'll get shovels in the ground, cranes in the sky, and build the next generation of Labour new towns. So here's our strategy. Step one, our National Wealth Fund, standing with business, ready to invest in the critical infrastructure that we need. The battery gigafactory, the clean British steel, the ports that can finally handle large industrial parks, more growth, more demand, more jobs. Step two, long-term stability for researchers, investors, innovators. A real boost for life sciences and the automotive industry. And a British jobs bonus that will attract new investment to our industrial heartlands, from Bridgend to Burnley, the backbone of Britain, once again powering us towards national renewal. Step three, a new direction on skills, because a future must be trained as well as built. And the generation that sacrificed so much during the pandemic, their potential must be backed. So today we commit to a new generation of colleges, technical excellent colleges, colleges with a stronger lead to their local economies, planted firmly in the ground of young people's aspirations, but also in the pride, the pull of the badge on your shirt, the ambition you feel when building a legacy for your community. Training lab workers in Derbyshire, automotive engineers in Wolverhampton, computer scientists in Manchester, nuclear technicians in Somerset, builders in Staffordshire, toolmakers in Hull. My dad would have loved that. And conference step four, a new mindset. Because when an opportunity is there to be won, you have to take it. Clean British energy is cheaper than foreign fossil fuels. That means cheaper bills for every family in the country. But conference, also a chance to make us more competitive. Countries like America are using this gift to create manufacturing jobs, the like of which we haven't seen for decades. And they're not the only ones. So when Rishi Sunak says, row back on our climate mission, I say, speed ahead. Speed ahead with investment. Speed ahead with 500,000 jobs. Speed ahead with great British energy. A new energy company that will harness clean British power for good British jobs. A company that will be publicly owned, conference, and will be based in Scotland.